Okay, so I've been wanting to do this review for a little while. It's for the Netflix series Dracula. Well, it's not really a series. It's more like a mini-series because you know what? I don't know, because just today I saw some sort of headline that this dude made, the guy who played Dracula, about Dracula, the possibility of Dracula season 2. Now, I did not read the story, so that might have just been like a clickbaity type of thing, and maybe what he really said is, no, there's not going to be a Dracula season 2 because it's done. I don't know. Maybe I should have looked that up before I decided to start recording. Anyway, it's too late now. I'm going to just go ahead and do this because I want to get it done. I've been meaning to do it forever, but I haven't it's been busy crazy, and toilet paper is out everywhere, so that just adds an extra layer of stress to my life. No, I'm just kidding. We're okay in that regard, but I swear people are going crazy with the toilet paper. Okay, so Dracula, Netflix. I did a reaction and review to the trailer a while back, and I was looking forward to seeing it because I like vampire stuff, and I had heard good things about it. And then my brother saw it, and he told me he liked it. Like the first episode was he liked the first episode, and the second episode was still okay, but okay, all right. But then the third episode he wasn't really crazy about. So I have to say that I didn't feel quite strongly as negative about the third episode as my brother did, and I'll get to the issues I had with that in a bit after I ramble on. But I did happen to see the IMDb user ratings for each episode, and the ratings for that did seem to follow pretty much exactly how my brother felt. So the first episode was rated pretty high, like I think it got 8 point something stars or whatever, and then the second one might have been 7 something, and then the third one fell down to 5 or 6 something stars. So, I think I get where they're coming from, where I think some of the complaints are coming from, and my brother did tell me the issue that he had with it. He told me the issue that he had with it, but I didn't really have the same issue with it as far as the last season. Anyway, so that was a long introduction to this mini-series that I wanted to talk about. Anyway, so it's like a reimagining of Bram Stoker's Dracula. And in the first episode, there are a lot of similarities. Jonathan Harker comes there, Dracula kind of keeps him imprisoned. And so the first episode is sort of like, it's told in flashback. He's at this convent, Jonathan Harker, and he's in very bad shape. He looks awful. He looks like The Walking Dead. And he's telling his story to a couple of nuns in the room. And so the story progresses through his flashback retelling. And then the second episode picks up not a huge amount of time later, I don't think. It's like around the same time period. And that episode takes place pretty much all on a boat, because Dracula is trying to make his way to the New World, or to England, he wants to go to England. Sorry, scratch that. Not the New World. He's wanting to get to England because he's kind of like bored and sort of lonely-ish where he is in Transylvania or wherever he's supposed to be here in this first episode. And so as he's on the boat, this also does tie into Bram Stoker's Dracula from what I understand. He starts killing off the passengers. And I believe that is told in the Bram Stoker book. I have never read Bram Stoker's Dracula. I love vampire stuff. I like Dracula stories. I like all that. But I have never been interested to read Bram Stoker's Dracula for a couple of reasons. I don't really like stories that were written like 50, 60 plus years ago. And this one was written, in the 1800s or something like that. And then also, I just don't like the prose. I don't like the way people wrote back then, the way they talked back then. It's too flowery, and it's too long, and it's just meandering and just pedantic. I think that's the right word to use. It's just bloviating and just I just don't care for it. I never have. There's only one book that was written several decades ago, like before I was born, I believe. Yeah, before I was born, that I actually liked. That was a forced read I had to do in high school. No, there were two. It was a forced read I had to do in high school, was one of them. The other one was a list I got to pick from. It was still a forced read. So one was To Kill a Mockingbird, and the other one was The Hobbit. Those are the only two like decades plus old books that I've enjoyed reading. Otherwise, I just avoid them completely. I just don't really care too much. I had to read some in school, and I hated pretty much all of them, except for those two I mentioned. Anyway, whatever. So I have not read Bram Stoker's Dracula, but I know the gist of it. So, you know, we've got Jonathan Harker, we've got Mina, and we've got Lucy, and they're all in here, kind of like reimagined a bit. Lucy is probably one of the most reimagined ones. She actually doesn't show up until episode 3. There are slight spoilers here, you guys, but I'm going to try not to give away too much. Anyway, Lucy doesn't show up until episode 3. And her connection is quite different. Like, it's not the same as it was in the original book, and you know, like, let's say the motion picture that they made with Gary Oldman. That, from what I understand, is a pretty faithful retelling of Bram Stoker's Dracula, and the way Lucy shows up, and all of that. It's different here. They've taken some liberties with the material. It didn't really bother me the way they took the liberties. I mean, I had heard some people were complaining about how they were retelling it to make Dracula like bisexual or something, and some people seem to have an issue with that. I really did not pick up on those vibes, but here's the thing. I mean, Dracula, he's gonna eat anybody. Well, that's not a double meaning. I'm sorry. That he's gonna oh, I did not mean it to come. What I meant is, he's going to feed off of anybody, and he doesn't discriminate. And to him, it's not about sex. It's about he wants to drink their blood. And yes, Dracula uses these seductive and charming type, you know, things that he does to sort of like entrap, or what's the word? That's not the word I'm thinking of. It's another word. Like kind of like to mind control people, or kind of like get them under his spell. I can't think of the word right now, but I think you guys know what I'm talking about. And he just doesn't, I mean, that's what he uses to get what he wants, which is lifeblood. I mean, he needs blood to survive. So, and I don't know if there were undertones of that in the original Bram Stoker. I didn't really pick up on it in the motion picture. But anyway, so I guess that's what they were talking about, but it wasn't anything explicit, and he was just kind of doing what he does to just like, so he can eat and survive, you know. Anyway, that's Lucy. That's the girl who played Lucy. So yes, her character was changed. They did a race swap on her, but her character is so, like, they really changed it up. Like it. So this series takes place across a span of like many years. So it starts off in the original time of the Bram Stoker Dracula story, and the second episode is around the same time too. But then the third episode, as you can tell by some of these shots that have popped up, the third episode takes place in modern day. And so that's when this, you know, incarnation of Lucy shows up, and she is basically a girlfriend to this guy, and geez, I cannot remember the guy's name. Anyway, just some little dude that's in here, and he's not really, I don't know. Okay. Anyway, so that's how she shows up. And my issue with the third episode, I really liked the first and second, and I didn't really mind the third episode terribly. My biggest complaint with the third episode is that it felt too rushed, too compacted. Like, each episode was approximately an hour and a half, I think. And the last episode was about that long too. But in all honesty, I felt like it was so rushed. Things were done so quickly. He jumps from like 1800s at the end of the second episode to modern day, and all of that is compacted into the same length of episode that the previous two episodes each had individually. So the previous two episodes were a total of 3 hours approximately, I do believe. And then this last one that wraps everything up, I mean, I guess it wrapped everything up. It seemed like it did. That's why I'm not so sure about a second season. It just felt way too rushed. And that was my biggest issue with the third episode. And I'm not sure that that's the same issue that everybody else had. The issue that my brother had was the way it wrapped up at the end. You know, there's this sort of like this climax thing that happens at the end, and this little twisty thing that happens, and he thought that was lame. It didn't really bother me all that much. I just felt like because the last episode was so just squished and just done so quickly, I feel like that the characters really weren't as fleshed out as I feel like they should have been. Especially the character of Lucy and her boyfriend, who plays some sort of medical guy that's working with someone who's this lady right here. She's a descendant of the nun from the first two episodes. So she looks exactly, and this is Lucy's boyfriend right here. And he's like a medical student dude or whatever that works with her. She's a doctor. And so it felt like those two characters were really the weakest. And the character of the descendant character, was her name Abigail? I can't remember. It was terrible, and it's been more than a month since I saw her. She was, I do believe, pretty strongly written for that last episode, but I think a lot of that was because her connection with her ancestor from the first two episodes, and she was very well written and pretty well developed. And you find out that she is, okay, this is a spoiler. Bit of a spoiler, but you find out that she's a Helsing. So this is another twist that they took and kind of like, this is an element of original Bram Stoker that they took and they twisted, changed. Instead of, Van Helsing being this older guy, she is a Van Helsing, and maybe she's Abigail, whatever. Anyway, she's a Van Helsing. She's not like the original Van Helsing. She's like, I don't know if she's like his ancestor or if she's even connected, or if the Van Helsing, it just comes from her. I don't think so. I get the feeling that she comes from a family of people that are kind of like in pursuit of this sort of stuff. But anyway, she is, oh gosh, that scared me. You guys, sorry. Turn it off. Anyway, she is a nun, and she like butts heads with Dracula, and they have a lot of really good dialogue and interaction with each other. The chemistry works really well. It's quite interesting to watch their interactions together on the screen. So at the end of the second episode, when you see that he's in modern times, helicopters overhead, and here she comes up looking exactly like her ancestor, and you're like, okay, well, is that her? It can't be her, And then she says who she is. No, at that moment, I don't think she exactly says who she is. But anyway, you see her, you're like, okay, this is either her or this is someone related to her. And my thought at that particular moment, the direction that I thought that this show was going to go, which it did not, but I thought it was going to go in the direction of the Helsing anime. If you guys have ever seen that, you probably know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, you should watch it. It's great. Both of them, I like them both. Like there's the Helsing, and then there's like Helsing. Oh shoot. Oh Lord, I can't remember. It's like the Helsing. Oh my gosh, I can't remember. There was the original, and then there was Helsing something And that was the one that followed the manga more closely. Anyway, I thought that this was going to go in that direction. I thought it was going to like be a blending of the Bram Stoker plus this sort of cool retelling of the whole Dracula thing with the Hellsing anime. In the Hellsing anime, Dracula, Alucard, he works with the Hellsing organization. They have basically taken him and sort of like, they have forced him to be a tool for them. And they use him to go out and hunt other, elements of, supernatural elements like vampires, other vampires and ghouls and stuff like that. So I thought that was the direction it was going to take. And it did not, unfortunately. I was a little disappointed in that because I was like, oh, that'd be really cool if they did. But no, they didn't. They just kind of they just went off and did a completely different thing from what I was expecting. So out of all of the 3 episodes, the last one is, I do agree, the weakest. I didn't utterly hate it like some people seem to have, but it was the weakest. Like the first 2 were just had more impact and oomph to them. Out of all 3 of them, probably my favorite one was the first one. And I guess, well, no, I don't guess. Obviously, most people feel the same way because the ratings reflect that trend. That most people like the first one, and most people like the second one too, but it was kind of going down. And then by the third one, people are like, no, not crazy about it, but I liked it okay. I like this show. I think that if you're a fan of anything vampire, Dracula, Bram Stoker's Dracula, whatever, any of that, I think you'll probably enjoy this okay. I mean, it may not be your absolute favorite vampire story, but I think you'll probably like it. The dude that played Dracula, I had never, okay, I'm going to take that, I would say I had never seen him before, but I really actually had seen him. I just didn't recognize him as someone that I'd seen before. He apparently played in the latest Dragon Tattoo movie, English language movie, something about the spider web, the girl in the spider's web or something like that. The one with Claire something, the girl who plays in The Crown, I think, yeah, she's the one who played Lisbeth. Anyway, he apparently played in that. I couldn't tell you now who he played in that. That's how forgettable he was to me in that movie. But at the same time, to be fair to him, I was not putting 100% attention on the film. So that's probably why I just didn't, he didn't stick with me in my brain. So obviously now I have noticed him as an actor. Now I won't forget him because he was the main actor in this and he did a pretty good job. And the girl who played, like his arch nemesis, I had never noticed her before in anything that I can think. So to me, she was like new, and I really liked her acting in this. I liked the way both of them played their roles in this. Everyone in here did a really good job with the acting. No real complaints as far as that goes. So anyway, I think I've sort of encapsulated everything that I felt about this show. I do wish that they had, instead of just made this 3 episodes, I wish they'd made it 4, and that the modern day stuff could have taken place over the span of 2 episodes, just like the 1800s era stuff took place over 2 episodes. I feel that was probably the biggest misstep on their part. And, but it's not enough to diminish my enjoyment completely. Just that was my one thing. I was like, it's just too rushed. Characters aren't fleshed out enough. And so I think that probably if you haven't seen it yet, you might feel pretty similarly. You might not. You might be completely fine with it. But if anybody has seen it, let me know what you think. And if you haven't seen it, well, obviously you don't have anything to say if you haven't seen it. But if you haven't seen it yet and you get around to it, come back and let me know what you think. And I guess we can talk about it some. And I'm going to go research and find out if there is really going to be a season 2. Because now I'm curious. Okay. I think that is it. I think I have bloviated long enough, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up, you guys. Nos vemos.